world is not well. I look out the window of my apartment and put my hands on the glass. It's dark. Crowds gather at the barricades the way they often do now at night. And soon the rising officers will come in black and disperse them all. Pelts of the wind, leaves on the water. The rising has told us exactly what's happened. For the past few weeks we've all been confined to our apartments. Those of us who can send in our work over the ports. All communication with other provinces has ceased, and the rising says that it's temporary. The pilot himself promised that everything will be fine soon. It has begun to rain. I wonder what it would have been like to see a flash flood in the carving from up high like this. I'd like to have stood at the edge of the canyon and felt the rumble close my eyes to have better hear the water, open them again to see the world laid to waste. The rocks and trees torn and tumbling down. It would have been something to watch what looks like the end of the world. Perhaps I'm witnessing that now. A chime sounds from the kitchen. Dinner has arrived, but I'm not hungry. I know what the food will be. Emergency rations. We have only 2 meals each day now. Someday they will run out of the rations too. And then I don't know what they'll do. If we start to feel sick or tired, we're supposed to send a message on the port. Then they'll come and help us. But what if you go still while you're asleep? I wonder. The thought makes me lie awake at night. It becomes difficult to find any rest. I pulled the meal from the delivery slot, and there it is, cold and bland and blank. The society stores served to us by the rising. I have learned a few things from the archivist. Food is running out, therefore it is valuable. So I've used it to trade my way out of my confinement in my apartment. I take the meal out to the rising guard at the entrance of the building. He's young and hungry, so he understands. Be careful, he says, and he holds open the door for me, and I slip into the night. I feel my way down the stone steps, my hands brushing against the sides and coming away with the familiar green smell and feel of moss. The recent rain has made things slippery, and I have to concentrate, keep the beam of my flashlight steady. When I reach the end of the hallway, I'm not blinded the way I usually am. No flashlights flicker onto me, no beam swings in my direction, as people notice me coming through the door. The archivist is gone. A chill runs through my spine, and I remember how this place reminded me of the crypt from the 100 history lesson. But I close my eyes, imagining the archivist lying down on the shelves, folding their hands on their chests, holding perfectly still as they wait for death to come. Slowly I shine my light through the shelves. They are empty, of course. No matter what, the archivist will survive. But they didn't tell me that they were leaving. I have no idea where they might have gone. Did they leave anything back in the archives? I'm about to go look when I hear a faint feet on stairs, and I spin around, swinging my flashlight to blind whoever has entered. Cassia, voice asks. It's her, the head archivist. She comes back. I lower the light so she can see. I was hoping to find you. She says Central is no longer safe. What has happened? I ask. Rumors about a mutated plague, she says, have been proven to be true, and we've confirmed that the mutation is spread here in Central. So you've all run away, I say. We have decided to stay alive, she says. I have something for you. She reaches into her pack and pulls out a slip of paper. This came in at last. The paper is real and old, printed on dark letters pressed deep into the page. Not the slick surface blackness of paintings from a port. You have 2 stanzas, the one I don't have, even though time is short, and the world is wrong. I can't help but glance down greedily and read a bit of the poem. Sun goes crooked, that is night, before he makes the blend. We must have passed the middle sea, almost we wished the end. We're further off too great it seems, so near the hole to stand. I want to read the rest, but I feel the head archivist's gaze on me, and I look back up. Something has gone crooked here. Night is come. I'm drawing closer to the end, and almost feels like it. That there can't be much further to go, having come so far already, and yet nothing feels finished. Thank you, I say. I'm glad it came in time, she says. I've never left a trade unfinished. I fold the poem back up and put it in my sleeve. I keep my expression neutral, but I know she'll hear the challenge in what I'm about to say. I'm grateful for the poem, but you've still left a trade unfinished. My microcard never came in. She laughs a little and sounds echoing through the empty archives. That one has come through too, she says. You'll receive the microcard in Cadmus. I don't have enough to pay for passage to Cadmus, I say. How did she find out that's where I want to go? Does she really have a way for me to get to Cadmus, or is she playing a cruel joke on me? My heartbeat quickens. There's no fee for your journey, the head archivist says. If you go to your gallery and wait, someone from the Rising will arrive and bring you out. The gallery. I've never kept it hidden, but something about it being used like this feels wrong. I don't understand, I say. Archivist pause. What you've traded, she says, very carefully, has been interesting to some of us. It's like my official again. I was not interesting to her, but my data was. And my official says the society has put Kai into the matching pool. I was a flicker of a lie in her eyes. She wasn't sure who had put him in. I think the head archivist is keeping something from me, too. I have so many questions. Who put Kai in the pool? Who paid for my passage to Cadmus? Who stole my poems? This, I think I know. Everyone has a currency. The archivist told me that herself. Sometimes we might not even know what our price is until we are confident with it. Face to face, archivists could resist everything else in the treasure trove of the archives, but my papers, smelling of the sandstone and water, just out of reach, were irresistible to her. I've already paid my passage, I say, haven't I? With my papers from the lake. It's so quiet here underneath the ground. Will she admit it? I'm certain I'm right. Then past stone in the archive's face looks entirely different from the flicker I saw in the official's face when she lied to me. But both times I feel the truth. The official didn't know the archivist took my papers. My obligation to you is finished now, she says, turning to leave. You're aware of the chance for passage to Cadmus, and it's yours to keep or refuse. She moves away from the beam of my flashlight into the dark. Goodbye, Cassia, she says, and then she's gone. Who will be waiting for me at the gallery? Is the passage to Cadmus real, or is it one final betrayal? Did she arrange it for me, perhaps out of guilt for taking my papers? I don't know. I can't trust her anymore. I pull off the red bracelet that marked me as one of the archivist traders and put it on the shelf. I have no need of it, because I do not mean what I thought it did. I find my case sitting alone on a shelf. When I open it, I see the contents inside. I find I want none of them. They are parts of other people's lives, and it feels that they no longer have a place in my own. But I will keep the poem from the archivist gave me, because this, I think, is real. The archivist might have stolen from me, but I cannot believe she would forge something. This poem is true, I can tell. We step like plush, we stand like snow. I stop at the line and remember when I stood at the edge of the carving in the snow looking out for Kai. And I remember when we said goodbye at the edge of the stream. Waters murmur now, 3 rivers and a hill are past, 2 deserts and a sea. Now death usurps my premium and gets the look of thee. No, that can't be right. I read the last 2 lines again. Now death usurps the premium and gets to look at thee. I switch off my light and tells myself that the poem doesn't matter after all. Words mean what you want them to mean. Don't I know that by now? For a moment, I'm tempted to stay here, hidden among the worn shelves in the room. I could go above the ground now, and then to gather food and paper. Isn't that enough to live on? I could write stories, or hide from the world and make my own instead, trying to change it or live in it. I could write paper people and I would love them too. I could make them almost real. In a story, you can turn to the front and begin again, and everyone lives once more. That doesn't work in real life. And I love my real people the most. Bram, my mother, my father, Kai, Xander. Can I trust anyone? Yes, my family, of course. Kai, Xander. None of us would ever betray the other. Before I came here, Indy and I ran a river, and we didn't know if it was poisoned us or deliver us to where we wanted it to go. We took dangerous black water risk. Even now, I think I can feel the spray as we went down, the swell as we were swept underneath. It was worth it then. I remember again the cavern and the carving. It and the archives mingled together in my mind. Those muddy fossilized bones and clean little tubes. These empty sleeves and vacant rooms. I realized that I can't stay in the hollowed out place in the earth for long before I have to come up for air. This passage to Cadmus, I tell myself, is a risk and I'm willing to run. I cannot change your journey if you are unwilling to move at all. I hide in the alley behind the trees. When I wrap my hand around the bark, the small willow in the green space, I feel fresh little letters carved into it. And they don't spell my name. The tree is sticky with its own blood. It makes me sad. Kai never cut deeply like this when he carved on something living. I wiped my hands on the back of my plain clothes and wished that there was a way to leave a mark without taking. I'm not even halfway to the lake when I hear and see the airships. They soar overhead, carrying pieces of the barricade back towards the city. No, I think not the gallery. I run through the streets, darting away from the light, and people trying not to count how many times the ships come overhead. Someone calls out to me, but I don't recognize the voice. So I keep going. It's too dangerous to stop. There's a reason we are supposed to stay inside. People are angry and afraid, and the Rising is finding it increasingly difficult to cure and keep peace. I run out into the dark of the marsh. Rising officers in black climb up to secure the cables to the barricade walls while the ships hover over, their blades chopping through the air. I can just make out what's happening from the lines of the lights of the ships above, from the steadier beacons of those who have landed in the marsh. The gallery is still there, ahead of me. If I can reach it just in time, I press up against the wall beneath it hard. I'm getting closer. The smell of the lake hits me. One of the gallery walls lifts to the sky, and I stifle a cry. So much will be lost if the gallery is gone. All those papers, everything we made. How will we ever find the person who was supposed to take me to Cadmus if the meeting place no longer exists? I'm running as hard as I ran into the carving to find Kai. They lift the second piece of the gallery from the ground. No. Within moments, I'm standing there, staring down at the deep grooves in the earth, where papers float in puddles like sails without boats. Paintings, poems, stories all drowned it. And people who used to meet here, who will still have words and songs and sighs. What will happen to them? How will I get to the Cadmus now? Cassia, someone says. We're almost too late. I know her instantly, even though I haven't heard her speak in months. I could never forget the voice of the person who piloted me down the river. Indy, I say, and there she is, wearing black and standing up from the hiding spot amongst the marsh plants and bracken. They sent you to bring me to Cadmus, I say, and I laugh because I know I will get there. Whatever happens, Indy and I ran to the carving. We came down the river, and now we're going to fly, Indy tells me, but we have to go. I follow her, running to her ship on the ground. You don't have to worry about the other Risings being on the ship, she says over her shoulder. I'm the only one who flies alone. But we can't talk on board. The other ships might be listening in. And you have to ride in the hold. All right, I say, breathless. I'm glad I have no case to hinder me. It's enough to keep up with Indy as it is, carrying nothing but the lightness of the papers. We reach the ship and Indy scrambles up. I follow and stand for a moment in surprise at all the lights in the cockpit, and Indy must manage. Our eyes meet and we both smile, and then I hurry and climb down to the hold. Indy shuts the door and I'm alone. The ship is smaller and lighter. than the ones we flew in the camps. A few tiny lights line the floor, but the hold is largely dark and there's no windows. So I'm tired of flying blind. I run my hands along the walls of the ship, trying to distinct myself by discovering all about my surroundings. There, I think I found something, a tiny line scratched into the wall near the floor. I. An L? Lowercase? I smile a little to myself, as how I'd want to find the letters in everything. It could be scratched or hazards, scraping and scrapping. It comes with the loading and shifting of cargo. But the more time I spend running my fingers over it, the more I'm convinced it was carved with intent. I try to feel more, but I can't stretch any further while I'm still strapped in. Glancing up the door and hold, I buckle the straps and move quietly so that I can feel further down. There are many of them carved in a row. L, 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 L. The letter means something, I think. To write it so many times, and then I realized not letters, notches. Like the ones Kai told me about at the decoys cutting into the boots to mark the time survived out in the work camps. I remember what Kai told me about his friend Vic and how every day he marked was a day without the girl he loved. Kai and I have been marking too. The flags on the hill with the poetry of others and the words of our own. Whoever carved here was keeping time and holding on. I do the same, running my fingers across each tiny groove in the middle over and over. Thinking about the pieces of the gallery lifted up into the sky, and I wonder if, when the rising sets them down again, makes a wall, some of the papers will have survived the flight. The door of the hatch opens and Indy beckons me to come up. The ship is flying itself somehow. Indy sits down at the controls. She gestures me to take a seat next to her, and I do. My heart's pounding. Until now, I've never been able to see while I fly, and I feel a dizzying lightness as I look out at the land below us. Is this what I've missed? The stairs have come to the earth, and the ocean has turned over the ground. Dark waves meet the sky and the unmoving, barely visible, but for the light of the sun rising behind them. Mountains, I realize. That's what the ocean is. Those waves are peaks, and the stars are lights in houses on the streets. The earth reflects the sky, and the sky meets the earth. Every now and then, if we're lucky, we have a moment to see how small we are. Thank you. I want to tell Indy, thank you for letting me see while I fly. I've wanted it for so long.